G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be part 3 of a series that I didn't think was going to be a series, but looks like this is NA East The Snakening Part 3, which is basically the story, and I'm guessing the final chapter, I hope, on how almost every single major team in NA East in the last 3 days has gone through some kind of change, or the players have tried to convince you they've gone through at least some kind of change. There's a lot of impression farming, there's a lot of fake posts, there's a lot of real ones. I'm going to get to the bottom of exactly what's happening. Is Bugha now playing with Day and Miro? Is he back with Avery? Is Reverse 2K now back with Day and Miro? What is going on with all the teams? Who's Kanata playing with? Who's Yomzo playing with? Who's Nosh is playing with? I'll cover everything. Don't worry. I will cover it all in today's video. Also, that's not just it. We're not sticking to NA East. We did have the EU Cash Cup Extra today. It was interesting, and out of that, we've also had some big team swaps. We now have Mongraal no longer playing with Rifler and Savid. I want to talk about this. We also had a few players talking about how some of the guys in the top levels of the Cash Cups actually cheated to get into easier lobbies. But from what I can see, it doesn't look like it's actually cheating. So I want to explain the situation and break down all of that. It's going to be a long one. There's a lot to talk about. Strap in. Just quickly before we jump into today's video, I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to today's sponsor, Skillshare. You've probably already heard about them. They're a massive online learning platform where you can do thousands of different courses in basically any skill you want to pick up at any different level, from beginner all the way up to advanced. And you guys are always asking me, Aussie, how do I get into editing my videos? How do I get better at making thumbnails? What kind of lighting and camera gear should I get for my setup? This is the place to go. Now is the perfect time, as the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description down below will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can start exploring your creativity today. I myself have actually been heavily getting into the fundamentals of DSLR photography by Justin Bridges. This course is fantastic. It starts off really basic, going through the camera settings and how I can take a better photo, but it ramps up all the way towards advanced settings, how to edit the photos, basically everything I've needed to know, and it's been so much fun learning a new skill. Again, huge shout out to Skillshare. Check out that link in the description. Whether you want to work on an existing skill or you want to try an entirely new one, now is the time. All right, let me try to cover the entire story, not just where it ended up, but how it started and how we got here. I'm not going to go back into too much detail over the last few days, so I've already covered that in the last 2 videos. All you need to know is up until this point, Day and Miro split up with playing with Reverse 2K. They decided they were going to play with Bugha instead. This meant that Bugha was no longer playing with his old teammates of Nosh and Avery. Nosh went back to play with Chucky and Nut. That was all happy. Everything was fine there, but Avery couldn't go back to play with Stretch and Saf because Stretch and Saf dropped Avery at the start of the season because Stretch and Avery weren't getting along, saying that Avery is a fantastic player, but personality-wise, they just clash. This now led to an entirely new situation. Avery woke up this morning and said that he was not going to fill out the form. He was not going to officially disband Stretch, Saf, and Avery as a team, which meant that they were going to be forced to play together for the next FNCS, or we would have Stretch and Saf not play FNCS at all. I know what you're thinking, Aussie, how does that work? How is that a rule? I've talked about this already. It's not the first time we've seen this happen. A few seasons ago over on Middle East, we had a similar situation. I made a whole video on that, but essentially Epic Games has put this rule in effect to try to stop teams after performing well, splitting up with their teammates, or 2 of them deciding they're going to leave their teammates without a team and go on to play with someone better. And I kind of get where Epic's coming with this, but I did say that this was going to happen again in the future, and overall I don't think it makes sense. I get what Epic is trying to do, but you can't force players to play together. If 2 players have decided they don't want to play with a 3rd player, making them do this because the 3rd player says, no, you have to play with me, that is never gonna work. Can you imagine trying to play with someone like that? Like, imagine being like, hey man, look, I'm sorry, you're a great player, but we just don't really get along well properly as a team. I think next season, despite us doing well, we should go our own ways and find different teams. And that player says no. You're not going to be like, all right, man, no worries, let's play together. This would be great. All right, man, jump in. I'll hit the tarps. Like, no, it's just not going to work like that. And it never will work like that. And I want to get to talking about Avery because he has been copying a lot of hate in this situation. You're probably already thinking, Avery, what a mean guy. Like, how terrible. How could he do that to Stretch and Saf? Let me talk about that in a second because I think Avery got a very unfair amount of hate today as well. But that is how the situation stood. Since then, almost everything has now changed. But let me cover the tweets from Stretch and Saf's perspective and what's going on with Avery, so you know about that chapter of the story. Because even though we have now progressed 10 chapters past that story, to know how it ended up, you have to know how it started today. Let me tell you about the story from Saf and Stretch's perspective before I then cover Avery. And again, please hold off instantly hating on Avery or jumping on it. Obviously, Stretch and Saf have more to deal with in this whole situation than you or I do looking from the outside in. Just try to remember that. So Stretch started off saying, I was going to wait to tweet something, but I don't even know what the point is. How does it make any sense that 1 out of 3 players can outvote 2 out of 3 players in this situation? I understand that Avery got effed over by the biggest snake in the scene, but to do that to 2 people is actually so fair. Again, he's calling out Bugha there. He is understanding that Bugha is the catalyst of this situation. It's because Bugha wanted to go play with Day and Miro that we then had this situation with Avery. And again, I'm going to talk about Bugha's statement in a little bit as well, because he actually had some really good things to say about the whole situation. Stretch then went on to say, if I'm still not able to disband our team or figure out anything in the next coming weeks, then I'll end up streaming all Cash Cups and hopefully Zate plays with us and we stream. So Zate's coming back now. Like, this is seriously a soap opera at this point. He said, I feel bad for Kanata most of all. Literally, we play so good together and Saf/Kanata love playing. He said, yeah, and then he went on to talk about playing with Zate and stuff like that. He was going to play with Saf in duos, all that. But we then saw that Stretch went on to win DreamHack Cash Cup Extra with Kanata and Saf. So if not to rub more salt in the wounds of this whole situation, Stretch proving that right now they are one of, if not the best trio in NA East. Again, the format was a little bit iffy again. I'll talk about that later. But they managed to win DreamHack. And that was huge because it was showing that they are a great team. They work well together. They have every right to play the next FNCS. They should be playing together. Saf didn't have too much of a statement in this one. He just tweeted out, actually pathetic. He was frustrated. He then retweeted Vivid's statement. We now have Vivid weighing back in on this. He responded to Avery saying, so you are okay with them not playing Grands, and then you are basically completely fine with the consequences of this next season, which is basically you not being able to find a tier 1 trio ever again. This is like not well thought out. You're trolling. Okay, so we've gotten the statements from Stretch and Saf. They're obviously understandably upset that Avery is essentially kind of holding them hostage in this situation, kind of forcing them to play. So what was Avery's statement? Avery said, with Bugha snaking, I'm going to be left with no trio and no option. I'm not going to just have a mediocre season with a trio I won't perform in, so I will not be disbanding our trio for Grands. It was never going to come down to this since I never expected Bugha to snake. I mean, at this point, Avery, you got to understand that Bugha is always going to do what is best for his career. He is going to try to play with a better team if he thinks he'll have a better chance winning with them. And again, talk about that in a minute. Avery then responded to his own tweet, I feel bad for doing this. I understand if Stretch or Saf end up not playing grand finals. I wouldn't blame them. I just don't have any other options available. Like I said, I don't know. I'm just lost getting snaked by Bugha once again after one Cash Cup. LOL. So later on, the situation has changed now. I will update you on the situation. We managed to have the fact that Bugha is back playing with Avery. So Bugha has ended up going back to play with Avery. Again, I'll talk about how we get to that in a second. I already know you guys are in the comments typing this up. Aussie says, gonna talk about that later in the video. Like, I get it, but this is a long story and there's lots of parts. I just don't want you jumping on and hating someone before you watch the whole video. Avery tweeted out later on in the day, back with Bugha, got a lot of hate for saying what I was gonna do. I think it was the best decision I had in my position. Now I have a new one. Like I said, I never did that for revenge or because I wanted to be annoying. I just think it was my only option. So the only reason why I'm skipping ahead in the story is before you jump over hating on Avery, when I first woke up and saw this, I didn't see Stretch and Saf's opinion on the situation. I thought maybe they would actually play with Avery given the circumstances as much as they wanted to play with Kanata. Maybe they understood, maybe they'd play with him, and I saw where Avery was coming from. Once I found out that Stretch and Saf very clearly did not want to play with Avery, they were not going to play with him at all, I obviously knew that either something was going to break, either Bugha was going to go back and play with Avery, or Avery was going to have to disband the team. There is no way he would make them play grand finals or force that situation. You can believe that maybe he would have if he wanted to, but I believe Avery truly would have gone back. But I don't want to paint this picture of Avery as this terrible person who just forced Saf and Stretch to almost ruin their FNCS. The guy had just been snaked for the I don't even know how many times now he has been dropped or snaked last minute. And yes, you can blame Avery, saying he should have learned by this. Maybe he shouldn't trust Bugha so much. I get that. But I saw Avery getting so much hate on the timeline today. I just wanted to make sure I presented it that way so you guys know it wasn't just out of hate or Avery being like, screw you, Stretch. You said you don't like playing with me. I'm going to ruin your FNCS. It was just a guy with not a lot of options who was upset with his situation, who tried to make something out of it. All right, now let's move on to the situation with Bugha. Let's listen to Bugha's statement, because a lot of people are hating on Avery and a lot of people are hating on Bugha, saying that he caused all this. He's always a snake. He's always dropping teammates. He's not loyal. Let's hear Bugha's statement, because it was really, really well thought out, and I have to agree. He said, first, I'd like to clarify the fact that no matter what happens in the scene or what people say, if you have the drive to win in Fortnite, you're going to do what's best for yourself. Besides that, I'd like to apologize to the people that I've affected by snaking. The issue my trio had was that Avery constantly wanted to make calls when I wanted to hard IGL and be the one making all of the final calls. To that point, I had the opportunity to play with the two best fraggers in the game, which seems pretty dumb for me to deny. So again, Bugha does truly believe that Day and Miro are the best fraggers in the game. He's just doing what's best for his career and his best chance to win. He said, I felt like the issue of Avery trying to make calls was going to lead to inconsistent plays and overall me doubting myself with decisions and when to call them. You can bring up the past with me snaking, but I made sure to talk to my teammates this time and make sure all of them had a plan before we did anything. Avery's plan being to play with his old trio, which is Saf and Stretch. We just talked about that. Unfortunately, I don't know how well that plan was thought out, but apparently they talked about it. He thought that was going to work. And Nosh being the same. Nosh did go back with his old team, Chucky and Nut, and things were all good. It seemed like they were fine and they were happy to play together. So he did tick off those two checks as well. Besides that, I don't have too much to say besides be cognizant of what you say to people. Constant hate in the community is going to affect people's mental differently. Sorry, going to affect people mentally and in different ways. But thankfully, I've dealt with things like this enough to the point where I know how to handle them, whereas other people might not. Just remember, everyone is human and everyone has feelings the same way as you do. And I like this. Again, that was a really well thought out, really well written statement. Of course, Fortnite kids just kind of dumped all over it and said, oh my gosh, this was written by someone else. Obviously, Bugha won World Cup. My man has gone on some of the most popular late night TV shows in the world. He's had media training. He knows how to say things and sound good. But I truly do think this was an honest opinion by Bugha, and I think he was very honest in his intentions. I don't know how they thought that the whole Avery, Saf, Stretch thing was going to work, like they were just going to go back to playing together, but he said that he crossed it off. Maybe Avery said that it was going to work. I'm not going to touch on that one, but again, it backs the statement like I'm saying. You can hate on Bugha all you want, but at the end of the day, he's doing what he thought was best for his career to win in competitive Fortnite. He didn't want to cause the drama. He wasn't trying to, like, just destroy Avery, or he wasn't trying to, be like, oh, if I drop Avery, then he'll take Kanata's spawn. Kanata's not with the team. Like, no one in this situation was trying to do anything to hurt other people or make their team's situation worse. They're all just trying to do what they thought was their best chance to win in Fortnite. Same as Day and Miro. Day and Miro dropped reverse. Again, they were just trying to do what they thought was best to win in Fortnite. That's what all of this is. I don't want there to be a whole bunch of hate. I don't want there to be a whole bunch of drama. That's just what I want the message to come out of this. But it's progressed another step. That is the beginning of the story. We haven't even got into the next part yet. The next part of the story is why Bugha is now back playing with Avery and Iomzo. So during the Cash Cup Extra, the DreamHack Cash Cup Extra, if you guys didn't watch, it was a fantastic tournament. We had Bugha playing with Avery and Iomzo, and it turns out they actually did really well. They came 10th place overall. So they actually came top 10, and they have never really played together as a team. Iomzo filled in because Nosh went back and played with Nut and Chucky. Now, after this tournament, again, we now have Stretch, Saf, and Kanata winning the whole tournament, and Bugha coming 10th with Iomzo and Avery, two teams that don't actually exist for FNCS. Bugha then tweeted out, I decided what would be best is to go back to playing with Avery and let Miro and Day LF1 or play with reverse again. Just don't enjoy this feeling of everyone being screwed over / mad and want to do what's best for everyone in this situation. Some people took this with, oh my gosh, Bugha, good job, mate, well done. Some people took it as, oh, it's because you did well in the tournament, you never cared, you're just snaking again. This obviously led to a trickle-on effect. You then had Bugha tweet out, with that being said, going Orchard split with Avery and Iomzo for Trio FNCS. At this point, Iomzo's gone from being someone that maybe a few of you guys knew about if you really follow the comp scene like 2 months ago, to now playing with the World Cup champion. He's gone from whatever tier you thought he was in before to pretty much tier 1. Like, that's a tier 1 team. But we then had Bugha reply a little bit later saying Nosh with an asterisk, which means correction. Ebozo is going back with Chucky. So now we have Nosh going back with Bugha and Avery. So we're back at square one. We're back to having Bugha, Avery, and Nosh, and Iomzo is going to go back and play with Chucky and Nut. Remember, they just won a Cash Cup as well, so they're looking like a strong team. Okay, so we are now back basically at square one. So where does that leave everyone else? Okay, so Bugha is now no longer playing with Day and Miro. So Day and Miro, after all of this, are now looking for a new IGL to step up and pop off with. Who do you think it's going to be? This is where the whole community took their chance to get their impression farms in. Everyone jumped on and said they were playing with Day and Miro and they're all going dirty docs. Everyone was uploading the same photos. Everyone was having some fun. And then we had the announcement from Day. Dirty docs with Miro and Reverse 2K in the 5K Fusion tournament. So we now have, after everything, Day and Miro back together with Reverse 2K, dropping at Dirty Docs. And then if you check Stretch's Twitter, we have Stretch tweeting out, still dominating Lazy in every tournament with Saf and Kanata. So in case you have not followed this epic, this just soap opera episode of NA East, we are back literally where we started. Nothing has changed. Every team, at least every team I've talked about, is back together with the exact same players. We have changed this much to change absolutely nothing. I have no clue how this has happened. And yes, at the start of the video, I could have just said that, but I thought you guys would like to know the story of what happened, because this has now taken place over 3 days. I had to finish off the story. You guys were all replying. You're going crazy on Twitter. You were tagging me. You guys were all making tweets saying you felt sorry for me, or how am I going to cover this one? Don't feel sorry for me, guys. When this stuff happens, it truly, I like breaking the news to you guys. I like covering it, but I like avoiding the drama. And now that this is a story that pretty much is with a happy ending, in my opinion, everyone's gone back together. Hopefully a few of these players learned to maybe not be as trusting of their teammates, or maybe to be a bit more wary. Hopefully some of them have learned to be a bit more loyal. It seems like a pretty good story. All's well that ends well for me. Everyone's back together. All these teams that are now back together have all over the last few days performed really, really well. We had Stretch's team winning the DreamHack Cash Cup Extra. We had Nosh, Nut, and sorry, not Nosh, Nut, and Chucky. We had Iomzo, Nut, and Chucky win the Cash Cup. We have Day, Miro, and Reverse winning the last FNCS. Like, all of these teams are phenomenal teams who've been performing well together. And I think this next FNCS is going to show for that. The only downside is, or upside, depending on how you look at it, we don't have as many reboot rounds. It looks like we're still going to have probably 4 reboot rounds, because Stretch, Saf, and Kanata are going to split up. Sentedegi Commandment have rumored that they are going to split up, but not split up. Basically, they're going to fill out the form to disband, but then play together anyway, so they can play the qualifying weeks. I don't know whether they're still going to do that. Maybe Day, Miro, and Reverse will do that as well. I'm not entirely sure. At this point, I feel like it might be worth it, just so they can play together, start dominating, and show that they're still insane, and build their confidence with each other back up. It's going to be interesting. If there's anything to take away from this whole situation, is that Epic needs to fix this rule. I don't agree with this idea that if one player wants to stay in a team, they can effectively hold 2 players' careers hostage. I get the intention. I understand where Epic's coming from, but it's never once been used like that properly. Every time this situation comes up, it's 2 players incredibly upset, having potentially their entire season ruined because of one upset, jaded teammate, and that just shouldn't be how it is. For whatever reason, if you're going to give out this level of money and you're going to give these players careers in your esport, you need to trust them to be mature enough to handle their teams. I know it seems funny saying that after everything that I just covered, but the final takeaway I want to give you guys is what I've been preaching the whole time. Don't send hate to these players. Don't be disrespectful towards them. Everyone was just doing what they thought was best for their careers, and honestly, there wasn't that much drama considering. Like, yes, people were upset. Yes, they got frustrated, but I'm actually genuinely pretty proud of how everyone handled it. I'm sure there was a lot of conversations going on behind closed doors. Fortnite being a battle royale and being an open esports that anyone can show up and play. You don't need to be signed to FaZe. You don't need to have a whole Liquid roster. You don't need to boot camp in Korea and go through an academy. You just find teammates and you play with them. this is gonna happen. It's always gonna happen. And honestly, it wasn't that bad considering, but I hope you guys like the story. I mean, again, like I said, I could have just made this, they're all back together, but I hope you guys enjoyed the long version more. If you did, chuck a like on it. All right, moving on from NA East over to EU and talking about these Cash Cup extras, we had some big news involving none other than Mongraal. Mongraal tweeted out, "I don't understand when I'm actually playing good, I don't get a trio. This is so stupid." And this is on the back of Rifler tweeting out, "LFT was saved. We are fully grinding and we have good chem together. Just need a good leader that wants to grind and be the best." So it looks like we've had Rifler save it and Mongraal split up. There's not much more information after this. No one else has really said anything. Yes, they didn't qualify for the Cash Cup Extra. They didn't place top 132. So I guess it wasn't an insane performance, but Mongraal thinks he's playing well. He talked last season about how he wants to step up into that IGL leader role. That's what Rifler's looking for, so it's unfortunate to see, and I don't know what this means for Mongraal. I don't know where he's gonna end up. And before you say anything, Aussie, didn't you say the Mongraal qualified? He did, but then he didn't. Epic, in everything that's happened so far this season with a lot of issues with tournaments. I talked about how OC and Asia we've had no word on why the tournament just didn't work at all for the Cash Cup. They haven't done anything about it. EU got rescheduled, EU got delayed. On top of all of that, the Cash Cups that were scored were on the wrong format. Epic went back and rectified this by changing the scores based on what the format should have been, and because of this, teams and players like Bugha made it into the top 132, where players like Jerian and Mongraal were bumped out of the top 132, which is really unfortunate to see, especially after you've got excited, you've got hyped, you were playing to the format. Most people didn't notice this. Actually, I believe got picked up by Kinch Analytics. I've shouted this guy out like crazy. He does insane stuff for the scene by doing like point projections and just putting out really cool stats and information on Twitter. And he's the one who found this. He said that based on his stats, people's scores should have been different. Turns out Epic then went back and changed it. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. Maybe should have just left it the way it is, but because of that, Mongraal didn't make Cash Cup Extra. And I guess if they had have made it, maybe they would have had a chance to play together today and do really well, because the format for the Cash Cup Extra, I love dreamhack. Dreamhack is amazing. I'm so happy they put on these tournaments and put money towards the game. And I'd rather take this tournament than no tournament, but the format could be a lot better. It's 9 eliminations for a win. Each elimination is worth 6 points and a win is only worth 55. So I don't really like that. It led to just ridiculous W key games. Some of the performances today, they got most of their points in 1 or 2 insane games. You had teams like Metro dropping over 20 eliminations. Remember, this isn't a Cash Cup. It's a Cash Cup Extra. It's the top 132 teams qualify. So I get it. It's more difficult to get eliminations. You should reward those eliminations more. But at the same time, it shouldn't be that W key heavy. You need to reward the players who are playing consistently and consistently winning. That being said, I feel like Mongraal, Rifler, and Savid with their playstyle could have done really, really well if they qualified for the tournament. It's just unfortunate to see. Looking at the leaderboard for the Cash Cup Extra, we did have some notable performances. We had Saf, Kanata, and Stretch winning it on NA East, like I said. We had Endelik, Snazy, and Sweezy coming in second on 629 points. EU came second in the finals, so hats off to them. Big performance. Other than that, there wasn't too many EU up there on the leaderboard, but I thought a second place deserved a special shout out. I know I'm kind of hamming up this NA versus EU from someone who's not from either region. I think it just adds a bit of flair to it. It adds a bit of fun, adds a bit of banter, but I know some of you guys don't like it too much, so I won't be harping on it as much, but that's very noteworthy. That's an insane performance. We had Pamstou, who I just did an interview with recently. If you haven't watched it, I'd highly recommend it. Insane up-and-coming pro. Just won the solo FNCS All-Stars, $75,000. I talked about how he was sticking with his trio despite placing so highly, and I don't want that to be disrespect to Kerry or Fatch. They are both insane players, but I just have so much respect for Pamstou going from $13,000 earned to 88,000 and not thinking all of a sudden he was better than his teammates, which a lot of pros would do, and they're proving why. They just came third place, 628 points. We had Gabe Tari and Sprite in fourth. We had Tabs G, Teo, and Pledge, Durant, Nani, Squish. We had Okas, Blake, and Scopes. So again, Blake and Scopes now finally finding a bit of a rhythm together with a new face. They did do it off the back of some pretty heavy W key games. Their placement wasn't the greatest. They truly did just get in off eliminations with that format, but hey, that's the format. Play to the format. We had Commandment Center and Edgy still in ridiculously consistent fashion. Crumble and Nexi with their new teammate Larson now that Mars is playing with Savage. We had Bugha, Iomzo, and Avery, like I said. Aspect, Kazu, Fishy, Bucky, Clicks, and Macwood in 12th. And to that point, Macwood actually tweeting out that if Clicks didn't crash twice today, he is genuinely confident they could have won this tournament, and even went on to say that he wasn't that confident in the team a few weeks ago or at the start of the season when they first formed, but he's starting to get really confident with the team, and he's feeling good for FNCS. So if you're a Clicks fan, it looks like Clicks has found his team. Unfortunately, I'm guessing based on what we've seen with the last few days of tournaments, it looks like they're not going to be streaming anything. I think Clicks just hasn't been streaming tournaments that much. They play really well when he doesn't, so I can't imagine they're going to be wanting him to stream. So it's sad, but hey, Clicks has got a chance to hopefully do really well this FNCS. We also had D-Roller, Duke, and Users. Again, I've been talking about how Duke and Users especially are just doing so well on so many different regions right now. D-Roller in the mix as well, but they were kind of chopping and changing and fitting in with different teams, but they've all been doing insanely well right now. We had Spegu's team, we had Jay's team, Nosh's team, again, playing with Nut and Chucky. Now they're not back together. Yomzo's going to slot back in there, but hey, they did well anyway. Sis Lucky's team was up there. We had Knight up there. We had another EU team. I think it's Crizzy's team, and we had Trap's team, which is the top 20 for money. So NA East had a lot of really notable performances. Moving on to EU, and now I will not be mentioning every team that placed in money, and this is for the pure reason that I'm still getting my head around EU names. I'm sorry. Every single time I watch Marine, Lenuif's team, again, you're gonna hit me in the comments. It's Merin, it's El Nuif. Again, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. Please don't flame me if I get the names wrong. I'm waking up at 1 a.m. to watch EU. I'm doing my best, but I am struggling. But EU was super exciting too. We actually had Malabuka's team come in first on 653, a team that I'm sad to say, I guess, that I don't know that much about. I've heard about Malabuka, but not too much about their team, but huge performance from them, and it was on the back of some really good consistency towards the end of the tournament. Their last 4 games, they got a 9 elim 4th, a 3 elim 10th, a 6 elim 4th, and an 18 elim 3rd in their last game to have a huge jump up. They just managed to beat out Floki, Clement, and Deceptos, who I've been hyping up massively over the last few days. Their placements right now in NA and EU combined has been absolutely insane. They got 647 points. We had the new team of Noel Riley, Rezon, and Vino come in 3rd by 1 single point. That was, remember, when it's 6 points in elim, 1 elim and an extra placement point, and the whole tournament could have been theirs. But again, it's good to see a new team show up. It looks like Vino was a good substitute. They're playing really well, but obviously in a W key elimination heavy format, you kind of expect Noel Riley and Rezon to pop off. We had, of course, Hen, Janice, and Chapix in 4th place. These guys are just always top 5 on every leaderboard right now, basically. Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD on 626. Forzia, Taste, and Nate on 581. We had Pink's team, Seti's team. We had Elakrat's team, Milan's team. We had Kinzel's team, Mitro's team. Like I said, on the back of that ridiculous 22 elim win. We had Zeku's team. We had Nem's team. We had Kiku's team. We had Sink's team. We had Freaky's team, Revscard's team. We then had Decide's team, and we had Jaggy's team. I hope I got that right. I hope I didn't butcher it. So again, a lot of good performances, and as much as I'm talking about, you know, this format not being the best, it's very W key heavy, both the NA East and EU leaderboard was very stacked. But when you take the top 132 teams out of the region, you kind of expect it to be stacked. You kind of expect it to be the best of the best, but overall, it creates a really tight leaderboard with some really exciting games. So I kind of want them to change it, maybe make eliminations worth 3 or 4 points. I still think it could be phenomenal, but maybe just not as just having one huge game heavy. Every time we have these cross-region tournaments, we get that drama of EU versus NA. They should be region locked. You shouldn't be allowed to play on our region. We had Edgy going after Floki's team because they kind of just... They did W key and they dropped aggressive in their last few games of their tournament, so that kind of affected Centered Edgy Commandment. But overall, I still stick with my statement that I feel like set lobbies that finish with one final lobby of, you know, 33 teams or 100 players should probably be region locked. But tournaments like this, I genuinely don't think they should. It's unfortunate when you run into a team that you think isn't playing properly, but I don't know if that's region specific. There's NA teams that just lose their mind and W key for no reason as well. In the same way, on the EU Cash Cup, there's NA teams that W key and do dumb things. There's also EU teams. I don't think it's too fair about that, but we did have a bit of drama. Now, I want to just say right now, when it comes to this ELO glitch, I'm going to explain what it is. I've actually reached out to Epic Games and I've sent them an example of how this works to see if they can try to patch it and fix it. I'm not going to teach you how to do it. I don't want to teach people how to cheat, basically. And again, I want to give a shout out to who came up with this, but again, if I shout you out, people are gonna go look for it and find it. So I respect you for stepping up and saying and exposing this one. I know Kaiser went out and talked about it as well. He said the same thing as me. He doesn't want to teach people how to do it. He wants to let Epic know. So the right people have been told, and I hope they fix it. The only reason why I'm talking about it is as it is relevant to the tournament. Some teams were able to have an unfair advantage and do better in the tournament because they abused this. So I just want you to know that it's there. But essentially, an elo glitch is a method or a way that you can get yourself to play in lobbies with worse players despite doing well. So tournaments have skill-based matchmaking built into them. If you're doing really, really well, if you're on high points, you normally only queue into lobbies against other players on high points. This is what causes issues with some players getting into queues right before the end of a tournament and players on higher points not getting in, because there's a system to keep them playing against other people of their own points. This is why a lot of teams late queue in Cash Cups, because they get really bad lobbies, they get a whole bunch of points and they jump up the leaderboard really quickly. Players found a way to do this even at high points, so it made it look like they were on less points when they queued into their next game. I'm not going to point out exactly people who did this, and the method to do it is a little bit sketchy in the sense that it's hard to know who was deliberately doing it and maybe who was accidentally doing it. So I'm not about to expose people out here, but a whole bunch of people were asking me, what is this elo glitch? How does it work? Can you talk about it? So I'm just mentioning that it's there, and I hope it gets fixed for the next tournament. As much as I'm not a huge fan of skill-based matchmaking, especially when you've already taken the top 132 teams, you don't really need to then seed it even more. But at the same time, if there is skill-based matchmaking, it should apply to everyone. I don't like that a few teams aren't getting that and other teams are. That does it, guys. It was a long one. You guys love the long videos. Tournaments are back. I'm really enjoying it. I've been waking up at 1, 2 a.m. to watch EU so I can cover everything. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. If you are, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on anything I talked about today. I know there was a lot of talk today about this whole Fortnite's adding macros into the game where people can click one button and build a whole building. I'm gonna talk about that most likely in tomorrow's video. This one was already dragging out and I want to space out the love, okay? There's a few things I've been meaning to talk about and I'm saving them for a video tomorrow. So yeah, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and I'll see you in the next one.